Welcome to New Stripe City, a YouTube channel for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. What is going on? It's been a while since I've been here with you guys. Just been kind of trying to relax a little bit, take everything in. It was a difficult season, but it definitely ended on a sweet note. But today, we're going to talk about a couple of things. So first, be sure to subscribe. Make sure that you like this video. Be sure to comment. But we're going to talk about several things. Number one, we're going to talk about Joe Burrow, why I believe that the Bengals will keep him. What's going on? And why they're going to keep that pick, why they're not going to trade. I heard a lot of national media stuff out here in these streets, and I'm here to kind of clean it up a little bit. So for me, that's definitely going to be something going on. What's up, people? Good to see y'all. Man, there's a lot of things I want to talk about. Let's first start off with why the Bengals will keep the pick and won't trade it. If you really remember a lot of your Bengals stuff, then you'll know that the Bengals were approached with a trade for Achilles Smith way back in the day. I believe it was 1999 or 2000, right? And the Saints wanted to trade every single one of their picks to move up to take Ricky Williams. Mike Brown passed on that trade. Mike Brown is a guy that loves quarterbacks. That's another thing. So the main reason that he ended up passing on that trade was because he values quarterbacks. He's been quoted himself as saying that his philosophy is that he believes in the workhorse quarterback. Now, when you say the workhorse quarterback, that means your guys like your Carson Palmers, your elite quarterbacks, those guys that you got to get at number one. Those are the guys that he's talking about. He feels like with any position, there's no guarantee that's higher than a workhorse quarterback on turning around the franchise. The Bengals just went 2-14. It would make zero sense for them to trade that and not take a quarterback. Obviously, with Joe Burrow doing what he did, being obviously having the best quarterback performance in college history, college player history, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. I mean, with this team being in turmoil, with fans not going to the stadium, not going to any of the games, what better way to re-energize this city, this franchise, without doing it by taking a quarterback? You got to take Joe Burrow. It makes absolutely perfect sense. From a business perspective, even Mike Brown has to acknowledge that they should take Joe Burrow. And that reason is simply because, number one, he's from Ohio. That means that you're automatically going to have people from Ohio that support him that are going to be there. You're automatically also going to have people who have followed Joe Burrow's story, know about him, like him. There's actually a lot of people outside of Cincinnati that like him. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an influx of Bengals fans. There's a lot of people that are excited to see what Joe Burrow can do in the NFL. You're going to get that. You're going to get your old friends that you have kind of distanced away from this franchise by not performing, by keeping Andy Dalton. So the best thing that you can do is actually move on from Andy Dalton and also draft Joe Burrow. That brings new excitement. That brings people to the stadium. That brings faith back to your franchise. That gives people a chance to think that maybe, just maybe, Joe Burrow can be the savior of this franchise. And that's why the Bengals won't trade him. That's why they will not trade that number one pick. It makes absolutely no sense for them to do it, especially given that they've passed on picks before in the past for Achilles Smith. Achilles Smith has done nothing, nowhere in the realm of what Joe Burrow did in terms of, in terms of college football. Let's just keep it there. The other thing is this. Look at the other players that he's picked. There was one year where the Bengals were expected to take a D lineman number one overall. Your Chase Young guy that's out there. They decided to pick David Klinger. Now, we all know David Klinger is trash, but that proved, once again, that Mike Brown's philosophy of picking a quarterback over any other position ruled higher. You talk about Carson Palmer. The last time the Bengals had a number one pick in 2003, what did they do? They picked Carson Palmer, Heisman winning quarterback. There's no way that Mike Brown passes on this guy, people. So all of these other media narratives that they're creating, talking about, oh, Joe Burrow should force a trade and all of that, I almost cussed real quick. Let me just stop. But sit that down, tone it down, because the Bengals have been one of the most successful teams in the last 10 years that has come out of the AFC. If you talk about just straight playoff berths and things of that nature. I live in Florida, so I've been down here. There haven't been a lot of teams that have actually went to the playoffs that list like are in Florida. I think the Dolphins may have been, well, actually not the Dolphins. I think the Jaguars may have been the last team to go, and that was several years ago. So you're talking about a franchise that at least has made from the 2011 and the beginning of this decade until now has at least made the playoffs most of the time. And you're talking about a team that really just lacked a quarterback like Joe Burrow that could take them out there and get their win. Now, if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe. But if you also listen to my podcast, I suggest you do. Me and my partner Zim Hude, if you haven't followed him, follow him on IG. That's Instagram at Zim_Hude. We also have a podcast by the name of Orange is the New Black. I also post a lot of those episodes here. But stay tuned to that because we talked through a whole bunch of subjects. But the main subject that I like to talk about was that I feel that the Bengals could go back to the playoffs. Now, it might sound crazy. You know, people might think that. The reason that I feel that way is because the quarterback position is the one position that can change your fortune. You're talking about a lot of things that could happen. In my opinion, the first thing that the Bengals should do, sign a free agent guard. Brandon Scherf or whoever it is, do that. Fix the offensive line. Jonah Williams is coming back. They really don't have to do as much as people are thinking. The other thing is this. You've got guys like Andy Dalton that can come off of the books. You trade Andy Dalton and you trade Cordy Glenn, that's $28 million. You talk about Drake Kirkpatrick possibly being moved. That's another, like, the Bengals are going to have money. They're going to have money. They're going to have what it takes for them to be able to go out, fix this offensive line, go out and get a free agent linebacker. I'd like to see Corey Littleton. I don't need for them to go out and get a top guy. Like, I wouldn't mind getting a second-tier guy like a Brandon Scherf or a Corey Littleton. I wouldn't mind those guys, but they have to pay somebody something. You have to re-sign AJ. You have Tyler Boyd. You have Joe Mixon. You have John Ross. You have Auden Tate, who's really capitalizing off of a year that he had last year. You also have Fred Johnson, a tackle that you got to play with last year that you claimed off of the Steelers. I mean, this is a guy that pretty much was pretty solid at left tackle. I think he's definitely a good depth move for us there. You could trade Cordy Glenn, go out in the draft. This is the perfect draft to get a tackle. This draft is filled with right tackles. There's plenty of depth that could be there on day two for them to go out and get a tackle in the second or third round. I think that you trade Andy Dalton. Trade Andy Dalton to the Patriots, get a third-round pick, get whatever you can for him. Like, I'd probably try to dangle him for a third and fifth to New England to get that pick because that could be another pick that could help solidify the Bengals. And I think that it's crazy because you make all of these moves, the Bengals could very well be back in the playoffs. You're talking about sorry about that, but you're talking about a division. Let me get set back up here. You're talking about a division that has a lot of